I'm your host, Mindy Reed, and I'm very happy to have in studio today author Relvin Gonzalez, who was born in Puerto Rico, but now resides here in Austin with his wife and dog Logan. You said you've been here 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years.
So a long time by Austin standards.
Yeah.
And you've written 8 novels, I think I counted, including The Void Beyond the Walls, and books in the 444 series. He also writes short stories and poetry in both English and Spanish. And he shares his writing experience on his blog and his weekly story portal, which I enjoy reading, which he says is a doorway to his brain. And if that has made you curious, newsletter.relvin Gonzalez with a Z.com. And when you're not writing, you like to do woodworking, play the guitar, hike, swim, and travel. And based on your newsletter, you also seem to like reading and watching Netflix series. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add that I didn't mention?
I think I only have one novel right now.
Okay.
The rest are shorter books.
Yeah.
They're part of a series, so the plan is to make them all into a novel.
I see. So they're like novella length, is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But people like that. People like the shorter, and that's all the 444 series?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So your first novel, The Void Beyond the Walls, is about a Texas serial killer who goes to Mars. I've got to read that. And what I was interested in is that you characterized this book as dark literary fiction rather than sci-fi. So what is the challenge in identifying what genre you're going to put your book in?
Oh, with that one, it was really difficult. People actually told me to make it sci-fi just because it's set in Mars a little bit, but it's actually more like a serial killer's memoir, I will say.
Oh, serial killer's memoir. Now you really have me interested in. And what got you interested in that topic?
It was during COVID. We were watching a lot of serial killer documentaries on Netflix. Pretty much since the moment we woke up, the moment we went to bed. And I was taking a class on space traveling also, and I kind of mixed the two.
Oh, I think that's just great. And, we get our inspiration from so many different places and I know we watched a lot of bizarre things during COVID as well. So some great creativity came out of that as well. So now you're working on the 444 series. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that series is about?
I will say it's about mythology mixed with sci-fi. It's kind of hard to summarize it without giving it away a little bit. But let's just say it's about 4 archangels that are trapped in this reality, and they are trying to get out. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a great thematic material for writing. We had a guest on several months ago who had archangels who were caught in the American Revolution trying to get out. So it makes for great subject matter. And then I read in your May 21st newsletter that you're doing the final novella, I guess we're calling it, in the 444 series. How did you know it was time to wrap up the series?
I knew what was the ending to the series, and I kind of knew where I was going. But so I with this one, I kind of worked backwards. I wrote the ending first, and now I'm kind of working towards it. So that's how I know I'm pretty close to that.
And do you plot out?
No.
You just sit and go.
Yeah.
That's how I do it too. But a lot of people do like that. So we met in May at the Austin Public Library's Greater Austin Book Fest. What was this the first time you've participated in a book festival arrangement? And what surprised you most about participating in it?
It was the first time that I participated in a large-scale festival like that, and I was surprised by how everything was set up. It was very professional, they treated the authors really well.
Yeah. I always say to writers that to readers, authors are celebrities, and so when you get to meet somebody who's actually completed a book.
That was the first time that I felt like a celebrity. Before that, it was
but there seems that there was a lot of interest in your book too from people who were coming by. They seem interested. They liked what it was about, and they asked me questions about it. But a lot of people like to kind of make the decisions to buy when they get home rather than buy the book. I may have told this story before, DJ. Please stop me if I have. But several years ago, I was working with an author, and he really wanted to get his book into Book People. And he was like, Mindy, I've got to be in brick and mortar. I got to be in brick and mortar. And I kept saying to him, I'm telling you, they're going to go into the bookstore. They're going to look at your book. They're going to go home and order it on Amazon. And he goes, that doesn't make any sense. If they have it in their hand, why don't they just go ahead and buy it? And about 3 weeks after his publication came up, he called me and he said, you were right. I was with a friend at Book People, and they saw my book, and then they went home and ordered it on Amazon. So
yeah, I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
I think they need to see it a few times before they decide.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the reviews. I don't know if it's I don't know if a lot of people are downloading ebooks. So you have yours in ebook format as well. So I don't know, that may be a part of it, but I know that's very very frustrating.
There was one person that was they read the blurb and it was like, oh, this idea is so great, it's amazing. They talked to me like for 10 minutes and they were like, okay, bye. What are we doing here?
But maybe they bought it and wrote their own review. So if you're just joining us, this is Writing on the Air on KOOP 91.7, KOOP.org. We're talking with novelist Relvin Gonzalez. We're going to continue to do so after a couple of announcements.
Hello, this is Alan Pogue with Veterans for Peace, an organization made up of veterans of all wars who now oppose war and associate members who share that objective. We wish to educate the American public on the huge cost of war and restrain our government from interfering in the internal affairs of other countries. We wish to end racism in our own country, seek justice for the victims of war and for our own veterans, and abolish war as an instrument of foreign policy. For more information, you can go on the web to veteransforpeace.org.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Writing on the Air, KOOP 91.7 FM, KOOP.org, and we're talking with our guest this afternoon, Relvin Gonzalez. We've been talking about his experience at the Austin Public Library's Greater Austin Book Festival. It was the first one, but it looks like it's going to be an annual event, and we're always glad to have another book festival here in Austin where we're all avid readers. In your May 14th newsletter, you wrote about going to the main library. I still call it new, even though it's been around for a while. It was your first time at the main library downtown. And what impressed you most about being there and experiencing the building and the people and the staff?
I think seeing that they had musical instruments in there, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
They had like mixing stations and everything for kids to make music. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also they have places that you can walk outside and work.
Yeah.
Outside in the air, and it's so huge.
Yeah, it's very big. It's very big. And so, have you done any writing down there, or
not yet?
Not yet.
It's kind of far from where I live.
Well, good. It's a great resource. So, let's talk a little bit more. We were talking about the person that you spent 10 minutes talking with, and then they said bye. So, so whether you're an author of a book from a traditional press or independently published, you have to promote your books. So what have you found is the biggest challenge in getting the word out about your book?
And probably explaining the book in a way that people are going to connect to without really saying everything about the book.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't write to market. I don't follow trends. I don't decide beforehand what I'm going to write about. I just kind of let it happen. So that's been difficult.
Yeah, so the characters talk to you. They kind of take over the writing process for you. That's very common. I think that is a challenge in a way to be able to, with many authors that I know, writing the book is the easy part. Writing the synopsis is the hard part.
Yeah.
You know,
the blurb, the
blurb on the back of the book.
It's even worse.
Yeah, because you have to condense in a paragraph, and as you said, not have any spoilers. We're really sensitive to spoilers nowadays. I actually don't mind spoilers. I have found that if I know how something's going to come out, while I'm reading, I'm anxious to see when it actually happens. So I'm not spoiler.
Yeah, I know people that like reading the last page of a book first.
Yeah,
and what are you doing? You're ruining.
Yeah, but you do it. You kind of then see the process for how the writer got there.
The story unfolding.
Yeah. So everybody's got a different way of doing it. So tell us a little bit about your writing routine. Do you write every day?
Yeah, I try to write first thing in the morning before I do anything else, because if I don't, the day kind of gets away from you and you don't end up writing anything. So I usually try to get about 500 to 1,000 words a day, and after I do that, then I start my day. Yeah. But it's usually the first thing that I try to do. Yeah,
I think that's really important. Again, a lot of writers say that. That's exercises like that for me. If I don't do it when I first get up, it's not going to get done. So how long have you been engaged in writing?
As far as books, I'd say 2019. But before that, I used to write songs and stuff like that. So I've been sort of writing my whole life, but seriously for like longer length books since 2019.
Since 2019. And is your book independently published?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so did you look for a book designer, a cover designer to help you get the book presented?
Yeah, there's this website that I use for my covers, and I've talked to designers as well, but usually I go back to that sort of company that designs the books.
Yeah, there are a lot of options, but you definitely, I think from what I saw of your books online, they are very striking. People might think, oh, well, everybody's reading ebooks now. Why are covers important? Because your eye makes the decision.
Yeah, that's the billboard to the book.
Perfect word to use, billboard. That's why you're a writer. You know what words to use. And then do you have something planned for after you finish the 444 series?
Yeah, I'm going to release that one on its own, and then later I'm going to condense all of them into a novel. Yeah. So it will be about 100,000 words, so that was like my longest work.
Yeah, that's good. the Green Mile was done that way. Stephen King released them as little novellas. I think there's 6 of them, and then afterwards put them all together into one book. So you're an aspiring Stephen King. So what advice would you give to other people who are thinking, that have ideas and want to write, and how they can have your devotion and energy to get into that?
I think as long as you tell the truth always, let the truth lead the way, kind of. I think it will be easy.
So let's talk about that a little more, because I'm fascinated by that, because you're writing fiction that's in sci-fi fantasy. I don't know if you make the distinction between sci-fi and fantasy, or if you just see it as a combined genre.
I think fantasy is something that's completely impossible, and sci-fi is it could be possible at some point.
So when you're developing these characters, so like when you're developing a serial killer who's going to Mars, how do you present that in a truthful way?
Well, like I said, I took a course about space exploration, and so everything that's in there that has to do with space is based on facts, on things that either people are already working on or they will be working on in the future. So it's all based on truth. Yeah,
so Gene Roddenberry did that as well with Star Trek, everything that was, that was back in 1963 when the series came out, but that was something that was important to him, that everything be possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it...
Not so much with the 444 series. That's completely impossible.
But one of your characters is a Viking, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so did you do a lot of research on Viking and Viking history?
Yeah, during that time, I was watching... There's this show on Netflix called The Last Kingdom. That's about Vikings. I went to Norway. And,
you did?
Yeah. And I was obsessed with Vikings during that time.
So research is important. That again, even though you're writing fantastical fiction, sci-fi fiction.
Yeah, it gives the characters sort of a humanity about them.
Yeah, I think that's another important point. Even if you're not writing the most positive of characters, they still have to have a sense of humanity.
Exactly. People need to connect with something.
Yeah, even the bad guys. So, again, from reading your newsletters, I see that you do, I'm sure you watch other things other than Netflix, but those are the shows you seem to know. So do you have any aspirations about being a writer, a film writer, or a TV writer as part of your aspirations in what you're doing?
Before I started writing novels, I took a free class at the library, actually, about screenwriting. And I wrote a few scripts. And before that, I used to do films, short films and stuff like that. So I've always been interested in screenwriting and filmmaking.
Yeah.
And so that would be great in the future. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you've mentioned a couple of times, which I'm quite impressed with, and I think that aspiring writers need to think about too, is taking classes, is finding a way either through a critique group or a writing group or some of the things you've mentioned, because getting that feedback is important, but also kind of getting the basis for what you're doing.
Right.
So, have you participated in critique groups as well as classes? Where somebody reads a few pages and kind of gives you feedback.
I've tried to, but for some reason there's almost no writing groups on South Austin. For some reason, all of them are in North Austin, and it's kind of far for me. Yeah. But yeah. I might recommend for people that are interested in that is, again, the Austin Public Library. They have branches all over the city that offer different things, but also maybe touching base with the Writers League of Texas. They offer,
again, all kinds of things, and it's a good way to network with other authors and learn from other people, what's going on. It's important because writing can be such a solitary type of
I've
event,
heard that.
And we get inside our own heads, and then all of a sudden,
I'm kind of used to being on my own because I used to work from home since 2012, since before everyone now is doing it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm kind of trained already for that.
Right. And so when you're not writing, what are you doing?
Woodworking. I'm a software engineer, so I'm also writing code, reading.
Yeah. And I think I read somewhere where you were writing a technical article that you...
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, so you kind of have a side hustle where you can write for different publications.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a good gig if you can get that. Again, networking is really important.
Writing is writing, and it's good to practice all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you make a great point in that, because even as you stated earlier in our interview, where you kind of are not following the rules, to be able to write knowing what the rules are so you can break them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another great point. So what else do you have coming up? You've done the Book Fest at Austin Public Library, but I understand you've got another event coming up later this year.
It's in October, I don't remember the day, October 12th, I think, in Houston.
Mm-hmm. And is it going to be similar to what was held in Austin?
Yeah, from what I've seen, there's going to be about 70 authors, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one.
Yeah. And then, of course, October is also when we have the Texas Book Festival. I think it's October, not November this year. But anyway, which is another great way to meet other authors, listen to different presentations. One of the things I liked about the Book Fest that they did here in Austin is they had various panel discussions as well. So people not only got to meet the authors in the exhibit areas, but they also got a chance to learn about the process of writing. Were you able to take advantage of any of that?
No, they asked me, but I said no, and I kind of regretted it afterwards, because the people that actually talked, they were receiving the most people going by their tables, like asking about their books and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it seems like a pretty good idea to connect with readers.
Yeah, that's a great lesson to learn. Readers, even if they're not going to end up writing themselves, the process of writing, it's like you may have experienced this with film. Once you know how something is constructed, you watch in a whole different way, Do you see that as part of your experience when you're watching something that...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
you're kind of noticing certain things.
Yeah. It makes you much more aware. And so you're going to put the 444 series into a single book, and then what comes after that?
I'm rewriting a collection of short stories that I have, and after that, I have a few projects that I've started and kind of shelved, but I'm going to come back to those.
So when you're writing something new, do you write it and put it aside and let it kind of sit there and then come back to it, or...
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important. Why that you leave it alone for a while?
If you're too close to it for too long, you might think it's great, and then you leave it and you come back to it a month later, and you're like, "Thank God I didn't publish this."
I can totally relate to that. So it's important just to let it rest, work on something else, something totally different, and then come back to it with fresh eyes and. Being willing to edit a lot out.
Yeah.
So I've just enjoyed talking with you so much. And is there anything else you would like our listeners to know, or
No, if you want to know more about me, just go to my website, and everything's there.
Yeah, I really do enjoy your newsletter. Is it a newsletter? Is it a portal? Is it a blog? Again, it can be anything.
You never know what you're going to get.
You never know what you're going to get, but it's very entertaining. It's a great insight to how you think as a writer. And so, as an avid reader, I'm glad you're willing to share that with us.
Oh, thank you for reading.
Yeah. So, that's how I knew all this stuff to introduce you. In the beginning, is just going through your newsletters, learning all about you. Again, thank you to Relvin Gonzalez for being our guest on Writing on the Air. As always, I have to thank DJ Harris for engineering and making the show possible, getting through getting through Austin traffic to get here to make sure that we can get on the air. So I do appreciate that. And as you know, the views expressed on Co-op Radio do not necessarily reflect the management. So when I say "Happy Birthday Eve" to Ronald Reed, that's coming from here at Writing on the Air. Ronald Reed, you know who you are. And the next show is getting ready to set up here. Oh, it looks like we're going to have great guests. An explosion of guests. This is what we're having next. So please stay tuned for the Art Sparks Radio Hour with April Sullivan and Celia Hughes. And look at all these lovely ladies sitting here. I have no idea what's coming up, but it looks like it's going to be great.
Tubu Fest.
Oh,